Hello and welcome to the Watch Kaki channel, where we bring you all the good and honest watch reviews. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I've got new videos uploaded every week just for you. In today's video, we are going to do a full review of this Michel Herbelin Trophy Diver, and this watch here was generously loaned to me for review by Our Boutique. Thank you very much, Our Boutique, for generously loaning me all these watches for doing my video reviews. So a bit of background information on this brand here, Michel Herbelin. So this brand here is a French brand, and I believe it is still family owned brand, so it is not owned by any big corporation or conglomerate such as Swatch Group or LVMH or anything like that. It is still independent, family owned, and the watches they've been around for a while, but in recent years they've gone through sort of a reboot of the series, and these watches here, they house Swiss made movement. Now in this particular watch in review, the Trophy Diver, this watch here houses the SW200 movement. So I would say overall this is a brand that is not commonly seen or not talked about very much here in Singapore. So as mentioned in my unboxing video a couple of weeks back, I thought this watch, upon the unboxing, it felt like a good quality watch, good build, solid build. Let's just dive deep into the review and look at some of the features, and we talk about the build quality and so on and so forth. So I've just zoomed in the lens a little bit, and I'm going to start talking about the specifications of this watch here. This one here has a case size of 41.8 millimeters, so it's not exactly a small watch. It does have a thickness of 12 millimeters from the base of the case back to the top of the flat sapphire crystal. And the lug length for the Trophy Diver is 21 millimeters, so it's a bit of an odd size lug, so if you're looking to change straps, that kind of thing, so you might want to bear this in mind. Lug to lug distance here is also on the long side of things. This one here measures in at about 51.2 millimeters. And yet more detailed measurements. First, I'm going to talk about the bezel size. So this one here has a 40.5 millimeter bezel size, and crystal size here is 31.8 millimeters. And finally, this one here has got a mid-size crown. It comes in at about 6.5 millimeters. And as mentioned earlier in this video, this watch here has the SW200 movement, so it is automatic, hand wind, hackable. It's got a date complication, and this watch here is also waterproof to 300 meters. And finally, the Michel Herbelin Trophy Diver has got a retail price of Singapore dollars 699, and of course you can find this watch from Our Boutique. And now let's move on and talk about the case design and its build quality. So this watch here has got pretty simple looks. Doesn't have anything fanciful like crazy looking crown guards or anything like that. So I would say it's a very conservative, very simple design, fully stainless steel build, and this one here has got a really balanced mix of polish and brush surfaces. So the case sides here, this one here is polish, leaving the top of the lugs to be brush, and all through the watch, including the bezel here, you do see a generous amount of polished surfaces. So even the side of the bracelet here, as well as the center links, they're done in like a high polish. Okay, not a big fan of such things. As you can see, reflects like crazy with all the bling bling look. And I'd like to bring your attention to this curve here on the mid case. So just take a look here. There is a really nice curve in the mid case. So this sort of makes the 51 millimeter lug to lug length slightly more bearable. And the Trophy Diver also has a really nice ceramic bezel insert here, so it's got a really nice texturing, and the numbers here as well as the markers, they're engraved. Okay, so there's a really nice texturing, layering going on here. And we've also got a 120 click bezel here, and I must say the click here is very crisp, very audible. Overall, the bezel action here is pretty good, with just that bit of a backlash. So I think there's a bit of a back play going on. So now I also like to bring your attention to all these tabs here at 10-minute intervals on the bezel. So starting from 12, you've got 10, 20, 30 and 40 and so on and so forth. So each 10-minute interval has a tab here. And I believe this one here sort of acts like an anchor for your fingertips to land when you're turning the bezel. So it's not a bad design on its own, but I do find these edges here, they're a little bit sharp. And now I'm going to just move the watch backwards a little bit for you to look at the bracelet. So this watch here does have a solid link bracelet. It's got a solid end link, solid links, but I really don't like this polished center link here going all the way down the bracelet. Not a big fan. I think if you like the bling bling look or sort of like very formal, dressy kind of diver, this could be the thing for you, but I think it sort of makes the watch look a bit odd. And one thing I don't really understand about this bracelet is that it has no taper at all. So this one here measures at 21 millimeters at the lug, but it does not taper at all the way down to the clasp here. I think it's still around 21 millimeters, and this clasp here does have a diver's extension. Alright, it's just a cheap looking stamp diver's extension along with the clasp here. So I would say, you know, if you ask me, I think this bracelet here overall, I would consider this a weak link in the watch. So I have no problems with the build of the case. I thought the case is done well, nicely done, that is. Good quality, good polishing, good brushing, feels good, feels solid, but I can't say the same for the bracelet, okay? Despite the bracelet being a solid bracelet, I think there are many areas where they could have done more to improve the quality, especially at the clasp here, as well as the adding a taper to the design. Let's move on and talk about the dial design of the Trophy Diver. So this one here, of course, it's got that classic diver look. Many factors. I think they've got these round markers here, and of course, you know, if you're a dive watch fan, we've got the king of all dive watches, the R brand, something. So you know that this sort of is inspired by. But the hands here, I really think they remind me of the older Omega C Master. So I think the reference is 2254. So this one here, the sword hand, the broadsword, really reminds me of that model. And to be honest, I think this bezel here actually reminds me of the Seiko 63 mask, the SPB 143 or 147 series that I reviewed last year. So sort of got the same look here, the same texturing, the same feel to it. And I think generally I would say this design here is a mishmash, a heavy influence by R brand, Rolex Submariner. And as you can see from the familiar looking round markers, the Cyclops, the overall black dial look, not very glossy dial. So I think safe to say this is, you know, a very classic kind of diver design. So at this point, I like to admit that I'm not a big fan of this Cyclops lens going on here. So in fact, I wonder why watchmakers, they like to make, you know, watches with Cyclops lens. But to be fair to Michel Herbelin, they've also made things simple by you know, putting minimal text on the dial. So we've got the logo at 12 o'clock, we've got the text here, two liner here, automatique, and 300 meters water resistance here at the 6 o'clock area, as you can see here. So at the bottom of the 6 o'clock marker, you can actually see the text France. So, you know, just to tell you that this watch is a French brand, made in France, etc. And I also like the fact that this one here has got fully applied markers. Again, it's a nod to a very famous diver brand, a diver watch design, but nothing wrong with it. I think it works well. It looks pretty good here. It's time now to test the Lume, so I'm going to switch off all the studio lights and let's take a look at how the Lume performs. And there you go, this is how the Lume performs in low light situations. So I'm really happy that they've actually loomed up this one here to 12 o'clock. So we've got a Lume peep here, and this is a True Blue Diver. And the downside to this Lume is, I think it's a bit uneven. So the hands as well as the Lume peep here, they're done really nicely. The Lume application here is good, but as for the hour markers on the dial, just take a look here. It's obviously a mismatch. And I also think that the second hand could be Lume as well here. So overall, I would say the Lume quality is just, you know, decent. Alright, acceptable, I guess. It's nowhere near, you know, the king of the hill like Seiko, nowhere near, but I would say it's just decent. And here's a mock wrist shot of the watch on my wrist. My wrist is 17 centimeters, so that's about 6 3/4 inch. As you can see, despite the watch having a pretty long lug to lug distance, 51.8 millimeters, I think, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of lug protrusion or lug overhang, because there's a really nice curve on the mid case here, and the overall thickness, 12 millimeters, really makes this watch much more wearable than the specs suggest. Overall, I would say this size here is still okay, even though you have a smaller wrist. So now let's do some size comparisons between the Trophy with some of the watches I have in the studio with me today. So first up would be a comparison with the BB58, and here you can see that the Trophy is not exactly a small watch, and it really shows when put beside the BB58. So in terms of case size, obviously this one close to 42 millimeters is going to look bigger than the BB58, but despite the bigger case size, it's actually got a thinner case side. So comparing that to the BB58, the thickness is actually the same, so both come in at about 12 millimeters. But when placed beside the much larger Seiko Sumo here, you will see that the Michel Herbelin is not that big after all. So I would say this is like a medium to large kind of diver. I wouldn't put this under a large diver, because 42 millimeters, 12 millimeters case thickness compared to 12.9 or 13 here, so you really can see the difference. Alright, so both have very long lug to lug length, 52, I think, close to 52, 51.2. This is about 51.9. So this one here benefits from a thinner case as well as more curves to the mid case here. So all in all, I would say the Trophy Diver here, it's a decent watch for the money. At 699 Singapore dollars, you're getting a well-built case, and also this one here houses the SW200 Swiss made movement. So for this price, I think it's actually a sort of a value for money kind of option. But I really think this watch here would benefit from a much better bracelet. Okay, much better in terms of design. It should surely have a taper, alright, if not to 18, at least to 20 millimeters, or I don't know, 19 millimeters. The clasp here has to be upgraded for sure, alright, and a little bit of niggles here and there, so one of which is the crown here. Okay, I'm not a big fan of this crown here. They've got a sort of a texturing or serration here going on, but I don't think they provide very good grip. So I'm actually having a hard time as I speak to you now. I'm trying to turn and unscrew the crown, but doesn't feel very comfortable. I have to put in more force here, and as a result it's pretty uncomfortable. So I think they really should have a better crown, more functional crown here. So I think it's safe to say at this point that for this money, although it's pretty good value for money, but I think there are plenty of other options out there for a watch that costs about 700 Singapore dollars. I think plenty of other options and other brands that you can look at. So there you have it. That was my full review of the Michel Herbelin Trophy Diver. So I would say it's pretty well made, it's pretty well built. You're getting a Swiss made movement inside, all for about 699 Singapore dollars. Pretty good value for money, but like I said, there are plenty of other options at this price point. So there's a reason why this watch isn't very much talked about here in Singapore. Alright, so until the next video, this is the Watch Kaki from Singapore, and this is George. We're gonna see you soon. Bye bye.